All right, let's do this.
Hey guys, welcome to Show and Tell Comic Review. We buy boxes of random indie comics from comic book stores all over the US and review what they send us. You know how social media works? Look what we got.
Alright guys, so today's comic is called The Harlem Heroes, Part 1. It was written by M.L. Fleischer, illustrated by S. Dillon and K. Walker. The lettering was done by a man named Bambos, whoever that is.
Check them out. I have to look them up.
Yeah, we gotta look that up. After the fall of the world economy, in the year 2109, only a few colonies remain, and they are all run and owned by the Megacorp, the conglomerate of big corporations that are left after this economic apocalypse. The narrative follows a group of prisoners that are locked in a maximum security subterranean penal colony.
He said penal.
Where workers work and toil until they drop dead from exhaustion. After witnessing a failed escape, this group of criminals, who are also the champions of the prison's game, Arrowball, they execute their own escape. They succeed only to fall into the grasp of the Office, an underground division of the government fighting the Megacorps. The Harlem Heroes immediately begin to make a name for themselves, and they also make enemies. The narrative follows them being trailed by the wrath of their newfound enemies. Now that we know what the comic is about,
What have you brought today? Tell me.
A contender.
I enjoyed it. I thought it had a lot going on. There were gunfights, 2 escape attempts, several explosions, a gang battle, a kidnapping, all in like what 30 pages. It had a lot going on, but it wasn't all convoluted. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't like struggling to keep up with everything that was going on because there's so much in one little bit. And I'm simple-minded, guys. You guys should know that by now.
Exactly what I was thinking.
So that, and I love the art as well. I thought the art was for 1977. Like I was looking at this one page. It's showing a close of him, this guy that's trying to catch or trying to kill the Harlem Heroes in that warehouse that they're there to blow up.
yeah,
And it's got a close up of his face, and you can see his flat top. You know, and I thought just this flat top stood out. I'm like, look at that, dude. That is just amazing, man. I'm telling you, really eye-catching 1977, man. Not to say that people couldn't draw back then, but it was just really good, I thought. Really good.
Mate, so dude, same thing, man. I really enjoyed the comic. I mean, yeah, right off the bat, the first thing when I opened it that caught my eye was the art. I mean, the art was fantastic.
Yeah.
You know, it's this just regular black and white art, but the line work is done to like with such attention to detail, and like it speaks of the time in which it was done because back then they used to really take their time, you know, with that kind of detail. I mean, you know, that since you were calling out some of the shots, like if we go, I think this is page 19, where you got this close up, right? Of the guy from The Office talking, right? And he has these huge spectacles. Now that to me was, you know, a little familiar. You know what I'm referring to.
Yeah.
But I looked at this guy's face and just the way it was drawn. I'm over here like, oh my God, this is so satisfying to see.
Aspect of his facial features, even just above the brow and above the brow.
Although in this one, they used something a little different. It's basically done with dots instead of lines. They just they
Yeah, I've heard
do
of that.
but then they combined it with the crosshatch, and you can see that they actually have both because like that really dark part of his forehead, you know, that's done with the lines. But then of course like the rest, you know, these vertical lines going down his face, they're all done with these dots. But it's just I saw that shot and I'm just like, you know, like that's a beautiful face.
You know when I do this?
You know, it's a beautifully drawn face, and the glasses, you know, the way they threw the glares on there, but you still have these shapes of people in them. You know, like that attention to detail to me is awesome. I love seeing stuff like that in comic books. But then, you know, also any shot where they were showing the warden, You know, the warden has these like really cool like futuristic glasses going on. Uh,
Visors, yeah.
yeah, and then like he's also got this this 1970s porn star mustache, but
Yeah,
still,
that,
it,
like oh, you're too young to know who Tom Selleck is, then.
well, maybe I don't know, man.
Magnum PI, man.
Tom Selleck. I know who that is. Yeah,
Tom Seleckian mustache. Him and
yeah,
Burt
well, yeah. I
Reynolds.
mean, he's got like this whole like handlebar thing going on. And I don't know. It's like I liked his aesthetic, and just every time that they like zoomed in on his face, especially when it was like in a dark room, the way they used the whites to just accentuate certain details in his face. But oh man, it was beautiful. I'm like raving about the art. I love the art. And you know the cool thing about it too is that with it, the visual storytelling was also up there. Like the way the panels were laid out and the angles that they chose. I mean, it was awesome.
Yeah, yeah. Like I'm specifically this one page, page 5, where they're the first group that's escaping right before they get exploded. Spoiler alert. The three guys
Right.
are running for this the mole, right? It's a drill that they call the mole. And as you can zoom in on that panel, and you can see every ruffle in their shirt, their jeans. You can see that they're wearing boots and their shoestrings. You wouldn't see that in comics today. They would just blow past all that. You'd see a couple little ruffles, maybe a line here and a curve here under the shoulder to show a turn, but that much detail in it, they would not spend that much time on it, man. Like you said, in the 70s, they took the time to do this, and it really shows that they cared about what they were drawing here.
Yeah, I mean, there's that, but then it's also that like what's impressive to me is that at this time, you know, this was still during a time when comics were being drawn by hand on paper.
It's not possible.
You know what I mean? Like, so everything that we're seeing, like doing this now digitally is so much easier to do. Um,
Right.
yeah, you know, 'cause it just is. But at the end of the day, like these things were drawn by hand on paper, and to see this attention to detail, you know, back when it was this much harder to do comic books, I mean, yeah, it's something you have to appreciate.
Back when men were men and boys were boys. Just below that, man, these robot dog looking things. I mean, one of them's got like a saw blade for a tongue sticking out. I don't know if you saw that, but
Yeah, yeah,
just those small things, just cool as shit. And the very next panel is the shadow of this dog mauling this dude, and you can see his arms are flailed out and the blood going everywhere, but it's all black, and it's still awesome. It's like you don't have to see the mangle. You know what I mean?
yeah,
I
yeah.
just
No, and it totally screams like Frank Miller, Sin City, you know, kind of
yeah,
same
and
style.
I also felt like I was reading like a Expendables comic in the set in the future, but in the 70s as well. Like that's another thing too. Reading this, it's in the 70s, but set in the future. But they're using 70s lingo. I love that too, and it's
Yeah,
giving me a picture of how we do it today. We do the same thing today. Like we got people, it's 28, 2382, and they're saying things like "dude." You know what I mean? Like 5,000 years ago, people are gonna be saying "dude." I doubt it. You know what I mean? But
right, right.
it's just kind of like a mirror. You know what I'm saying? Like you're seeing, back then is like nothing. There's nothing new under the sun. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's true. No, I mean that's cool that you can see the influence of their everyday world in their work. You know, so it's
Right.
kind of like also a window into their time. Because again, even though these are futuristic aesthetics, you could tell that they were so inspired by what they saw every day.
And you know that the things you see in the movies are a real play. They're not just something made up for the movie. For instance, you hear this all the time in the movie. Hey man, or hey, don't hassle me, man, okay? It sounds so cheesy then, but that's really what they were saying because it's right here in the book. And it was in 1977. So they really did say, hey man, don't hassle me, okay? Like we would be like, bro, fuck off or some shit, you know what I'm saying? Like we
Right,
would be,
right. Yeah,
um,
it's like hearing somebody go like, "Yeah, listen here, Bucko." You know,
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like they really talk like that. Yeah, I have this whole video on lingo from the 20s because of that project I want to work on set in that era. And some of it is just so corny. But if you ever watch Boardwalk Empire, they use the same kind of lingo. Have you ever seen Boardwalk Empire?
No.
Great show, man. It's got Steve Buscemi in it. He's playing this guy named Nucky Thompson. In like the 20s and 30s, I think it spreads across the two. But it's a really great show, man. But even that corny lingo, if it's written well, it doesn't come off corny at all, man. Like these guys, it's got like not Tony Montana, but Al Capone, Scarface.
Oh, okay.
It's about the bootlegs and shit in the 20s after they outlawed shit. But anyway, the point is, even with that corny, cheesy kind of lingo that we would seem corny today, if it's written well, would still come off good. Like I still enjoyed this, even though it was kind of cheesy and corny. It fit the era they were trying to go for. I understood the era it came from, so I was able to enjoy the whole thing, especially with all the stuff it had in it. It was fun to read, I thought.
Right. Ultimately, they did give me Suicide Squad vibes. So in that sense, it did feel like something that you would see like in a classic DC comic. Or, a Marvel comic, the way they did it back in the day. And I guess my only complaint, I do have one complaint about the comic, but that's probably it. I think my only complaint about the comic is that the story did feel a little rushed.
Oh yeah.
Like they were just jumping, from sequence to sequence in a very, I don't know. I felt like it was rushed, because I kind of felt overwhelmed by the end of it, because it was like so much had happened in so little time.
Well, it did seem that way, but I appreciated it because of the era that it was in. It was just coming out of the 60s and 70s, where in the 60s and 70s, really the flow of storytelling from the panels wasn't really that great, man. You really had to rely on your own imagination, the stuff, the dialogue and stuff going on, the exposition, because they didn't really. It wasn't. I'm not saying the flow was terrible back then. You know what I'm saying? It was just 60s and 70s and the 40s. Back in the beginning. So they were just coming out of that Popeye era. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
For being 1970s, mid to late 1970s, and coming out of that Popeye, Archie's era.
Yeah. I think I think what it was for me, I probably would have been able to handle everything that they threw at us if they broke it up in a more cohesive manner. Because the other thing was that like there weren't a lot of establishing shots when they were changing from scene to scene. You know what I mean? So there were times where I was reading one sequence and then I didn't even realize that I had just entered a new one until like maybe 2 panels in.
Give us some establishing shots, guys. Our readers love establishing shots. They have them in movies, they have them in TV. We need them in comics as well. They really do set the scene. And that lingo thing we were talking about, like the 70s, but set in the 2000 or 2109.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me, seeing that in real time as I read, it makes me look forward even more to reading War of the Worlds, to see from way back then and the lingo that they're using and how they're describing what's going on.
Yeah. That's one of my favorite things. Yeah. When you read when I read H.G. Wells, that's one of my favorite things is to like see how they talked back then and stuff that he included in the book. Like I know one thing that stood out to me was the way that when big crowds of people would have to run away from the aliens, they would all, just be like piled on top of each other running through the streets of London. And instead of going like, move, move, they'd say, way, way. That's how they like would tell people to get out of the way. Make way. Just little things like that. Yeah. Like they did capture like the time and really their lifestyle because, the main character of of that novel was actually a philosophical writer.
Oh yeah.
Like he wrote columns for like the local newspaper and things like that on philosophical themes, and he was a pretty renowned writer. So he made a pretty decent living for himself, like to the point where he had this really elegant home, and he had a servant. So like he was upper class. He was doing pretty good for himself. And then the alien invasion came, and he was like basically reduced to nothing. It's my favorite novel, dude. My favorite novel by far is War of the Worlds. I love it.
I haven't started it yet, guys, but I do plan to. When I was looking it up, I ran into the radio broadcast, and I started listening to that, and just never got back to downloading the book yet.
It's the only book I can read over and over again and not get tired of it. Because with some books, I read it after so many times and then I get tired of it because I know what's going to happen. But with this one, I know the story forward and backwards, but I just enjoy it every time.
I've read a lot of books, but only one of them I've read twice. It was called, it was a Dean Koontz book. It was about this town that had been taken over by MK Ultra. And I can't remember the name of it. Anyway, he could just utter certain words and they would do whatever he told him to do.
That's crazy.
Like he was at this restaurant and he told this woman to go back and stab herself in the hand. He whispered some word. I don't remember what the word was. And she did. She went back there, put her hand on the cutting board, and just drove this not cleaver, but this big old knife through her hand. And then when everybody run in it or find out what was going on, she couldn't remember why she had done it. She just kind of snapped out of it with this knife in her hand. And you can clearly see on the video, because they did run the video back, and she clearly stabs herself in the hand. So it was like, stuff like this is going on all over town. It was a really good book. I read it. I read it in 2 days, and then I immediately read it again. It was a good thing. Man, I wish I could remember the name of that book. But you look up Dean Koontz, and 80 books are going to pop up. I'm about to go through that list.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's really all I have to say about the comic. Like,
Listen to these words.
If I had to say anything else about it, I'm just gonna keep raving about the art. Like just calling out different shots in different pages that were just so pleasing. And the thing is, the art I think really also did help set off the story. Like, had they gotten the wrong artist, I think the story could have easily bombed.
Yeah,
but
the story wasn't great. You know what I'm saying? Just like The Expendables isn't great, but it's watchable.
Right.
And I want not for everybody, but for a lot of people out there, Expendables made a lot of money. So, like it will make you want to read more. But if it wasn't if it wasn't Sylvester Stallone and all these other big guys in the movie, it wouldn't go so far. You know what I'm saying? We enjoy seeing all of our 80s, 90s, 2000s, action heroes all together. So that's why they make so much money. So the same thing with here. So like the superstar here is the art, right?
Yeah.
And that's what makes everybody want to continue with the story. But the story is not bad. You know what I'm saying? It's like I said, it's watchable, readable, I should say.
Yeah.
But
Like
right
for
here,
me personally, though, I will say this though. For me personally, though, had the story been a little better, this would have put Blowtorch in danger for me.
I can't tell if you're joking or not.
yeah, that was very good, man. It does not take Blowtorch off of its perks, though, guys. I mean, it was fun. It was fun. I wanted to know more about the game that they were playing. That would have been cool to know more about the rules and stuff.
Yeah, the game. Oh, and again, going back, I think we discussed this in the most recent video that we recorded. I don't think it's the one that's airing next, but we recorded one yesterday, where I was talking about how it's cool how you can get creative with how you introduce your characters. And the way they introduced the characters in this one was fantastic. I loved it because they were in the middle of this really violent game. What is it? It combines kung fu, basketball, hockey, And jetpacks, right?
Jetpacks, yeah, and violence.
Like all of those things in one, but then it's like they're showing the players and then the warden's going one by one. Yeah, you see that one over there, kicking this dude in the face. Yeah, she did, and then they show you her whole file and what she did. I thought that was really cool, very creative.
Yeah, I like that he wasn't the top dog. You know what I mean? Like he wasn't the big baddie. You know what I'm saying? It was someone else that's also, you still don't know who his boss is. It's just the office. Well, who runs the office? You know what I mean? So
Right.
it's a bigger world than what we're given here. And from what I saw, there's several more issues. So I may buy them up and see what comes of it. I hope it's not a waste of money.
I mean that'd be cool because I wouldn't mind reviewing the other issues too. Like I enjoyed it that much. Like I want to see more of this art.
We should have another show where on comics that we want to do, keep reading, that we read them up and then review the entirety of when we catch up. I think we should do something like that. Maybe like a non-spoiler. Like we spoil the first issue with that, but like give an overall review
Right.
without spoiling anything. We should do. We might do something like that, guys. We got a lot going on. I know I'm supposed to be in Florida right now, and we're supposed to be in the same studio.
We
But
are.
the people that are in our house we're supposed to move into are refusing to move out. So we're having to. Well, anyway, we're stuck in Charlotte, North Carolina now, and we're gonna get down there probably in the next 4 to 6 weeks, man. Well, that's all we got, guys. Go and buy this comic and all of them. I think there's like 6 or 7 issues after this. It's from the
All of them.
70s. Hey, man, I mean, it's just because it's from the 70s doesn't mean you can't buy a comic and enjoy it, But anyway, I'm the last Bob. He's the show, and we'll see you next time. In the bag.
In the bag.